My husband and I live in a 100-year-old house. It's always been a little creepy, like hearing people talking in another room and going in and there's no one there. But a couple of years ago, we had two really good hauntings that totally convinced me the paranormal is real. The first thing that happened was when I was sleeping on the living room floor in front of the TV because I hurt my back and was trying to get it to unkink. I woke up at 4 a.m. and I heard the mantel clock chime 4. I'm sure I was awake because I watched TV for a few minutes. I heard my husband walk into the room behind me, pick up the comforter and spoon behind me with his arm thrown over my waist. After a couple of minutes, it was like his arm weighed a ton, and he was throwing a lot of heat. Just about then, I heard my husband start snoring in the bedroom. I was like, oh shit, freaking terrified. So I counted to 3 and threw the cover off and ran. Woke him up and we looked, there was no one else in the house. I know there was something there though. The second time we were both asleep in the bedroom at about 4 a.m. again. My husband says he woke up to hear two little girls talking. He could hear that they were playing jacks. He could hear the ball bouncing and the metal sound of the jacks on the wood floors. One of the little girls says to the other one, watch this, and she goes, Mama, Mama, and I sat straight up still asleep and said, what baby? Once a mom, always a mom, right? The little girls laughed because it worked. So he kind of shook me awake and I looked at him then at the doorway where the little girls were. They looked real except their outlines were wavering and they were almost black and white in coloring. They saw us both looking and laughed. Then the older girl grabbed the littler one's hand and they walked right through the bedroom wall and disappeared. I can't say it really fully pushed me over the edge, but it made me, to use a double negative, not believe. I guess I'm agnostic on it. I grew up with a Burmese mountain dog. Anybody that knows them knows they're already calm, gentle giants. Mine never once in his entire life barked or growled at anything. He was calm and stoic. Until one night he wasn't. I was about 15, home alone with the dog, and he just lost his shit. He looked around the room, let loose a growl that absolutely thundered in his chest, and started barking like mad. He had stood up and was in a threatening pose, his hair all straightened out and laid flat. He was ready to go. It was pure, pants-shitting terror for what felt like 1,000 or so years. Then he just stopped. His hair mussed back up and he patted over, dropped his mouth in the big doggy grin, and licked my face. If it was a demon or something, it didn't want to fuck with my dog again. When I was younger, my mom used to invite random neighborhood children over for dinner and parties so they could eat. At my sister's birthday party, everyone was outside getting ready to hit the piñata. My father noticed a girl sitting inside staring out the window at us. We have a large window beside front door. He told me to go inside and ask her to come out and join the party. I ran up the walkway, looking at her through the window as I went towards the door, and then as soon as I passed through the doorway, losing sight of her for a few seconds, she was gone. My dad thought she had fallen. There's a couch in front of the window, so he thought she fell on the couch. I looked around for her, but couldn't find her, so I told my dad. He helped me look for her, but still nothing. No one else saw her except me and my dad. My mom said she didn't recall inviting any girls with our description of her. We forgot about it until some years later, though I don't really know exactly how many. My dad and I were sitting in the living room watching TV. From my dad's armchair, you can see into the kitchen a little bit. Me and my dad were talking about the show we were watching when he suddenly got quiet. He said my name and motioned for me to come over to him. He told me to look at the microwave. I saw that girl's reflection in the microwave, exactly the same as before. I ran into the kitchen and my dad followed, but again, no one was there. We were both pretty spooked, so we went out for ice cream until my mom came home. I thought it was a neighborhood kid playing a prank on us the first time. But seeing her the second time unchanged in her kitchen many years later made me start believing in ghosts. When I was 18, living on my own for the first time, I kept waking up and seeing a woman with matted black hair sitting on my bed and smiling at me. A creepy smile. Not a nice one. She scared the shit out of me. One night I woke up and she was there and slowly held up her hands, and they were fucking grotesque. It looked like third-degree burns covering them. I was talking to my mom and mentioned it, and she just said weird. She hasn't been around since you were a kid. Don't encourage her. She shows up every now and again. Sometimes in nightmares. Sometimes when I wake up at night, she's at the foot of the bed being creepy. I've had roommates who have seen her too, without me mentioning it to them ever before. I just ignore her. My dad passed away while we were out of the country. It was very unexpected. A couple days before he passed, he had issues sending and receiving texts/calls. His phone was always on for business calls/emergencies when we were on vacation/traveling. Several days after we get back home and are planning his funeral with my family, I'm confessing to them that he embarrassed me at dinner, and my last conversation with him was us arguing before he passed, and felt horribly guilty. Just as I explained that, I hear my phone go off and see a text from my dad. We had his phone charging in the kitchen, so it was already creeping us out that none of us had touched it for the past few days. I opened the text and it said, "I love you, love Dad." I obviously lost it, and so did my family. My logical mind says that it's just a text he sent while I was testing his phone the week prior that finally went through, but his phone was on and connected for at least 3 days back home, and the text came at that exact moment. A month or so after my dad passed, I was driving to the first family get-together since the funeral, and I was sort of in a funk that this is the first family outing without my dad. As I'm driving through a rural area, I hear my dad's voice yell at me to stop. He taught me to drive, and I was very familiar with his panic yells. I slam on my brakes at an intersection with a green light for me, and an 18-wheeler comes barreling through the intersection. If I didn't stop, I would have definitely been hit. Once again could be grief and thinking about the times my dad taught me how to drive, but still weirds me out to this day. Haven't had any other weird instances since these, and it's been almost 8 years now.